Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spoilt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today we're in the home studio and we're bringing the freshness. We're bringing the podcast mogul himself here. He's a host of Geek Dudes and my personal favorite, Hey, it's the podcast. It's Criss Fresh. Hey, mate.
Hello there. G'day, mate. How's things?
Good, good.
I'm here in person in the lair where Chapman's cheapies. I'm seeing the fruits of his labour as I look up at his Black Series collection, and I'm impressed that he's gone for a mint on card collection, or mint in box, actually, because the Black Series is sort of more of a box. And
it is. It stands so easily. That's the temptation, because they just stand. They freestand.
I almost feel claustrophobic for you looking at them in a box because it's just going to take up so much space.
I know we've nearly maxed out. Now I've seen your Instagram, and I know you've got your lair at your house. And space is I've got a little bit more space than you do, but you've been going at it a lot longer than me. But it's coming along. It's basically whatever the market dictates.
So we're in a weird space in Australia with collectibles at the moment. Like Kmart's a barren land, Toys R Us is gone. You've got your Toy Worlds, which are super expensive or really cheap if they clear something out. And you've discovered, you're the pioneer of the reject shops cheap Black Series explosion that they've got. But it does make it hard to sort of be a serious Black Series collector. Like, are you an all-in guy, or
No.
can you just pick?
I'll pick anything that goes through reject shop. I'll get that I don't have.
Would you spend $39.99 on a Black Series figure?
The only way I would spend that money will be when I go to Celebration and there's a exclusive. And I will get it not because from a memento point of view, to say I was there and I got it. I can't think of anything like there was a solo Chewie that Maya had for some reason, and it was the only place that they had it. And
a bigger one?
No, it's a regular size one. He's got the goggles and stuff.
Yep.
And they had Maya had some crazy price muck up where they were clearing.
Of course they did.
They were clearing episode 7 stuff. But all their episode 8 stuff was scanning at the same price, so like $15. So I got like the Luke up there and the Rey and the Praetorian Guard. There's a couple up there that I think there's Poe and a couple ones, were all scanning at $15. So I was basically, because they had them on the website, and they were going, all right, you can basically pick ones and we'll send you whichever ones you get. It's kind of random.
The old random
warehouse.
pick.
I'm like, well, that doesn't help me. Or you can do click and collect, but we'll tell you which ones are in stock. You can click and collect out.
All
right, well, I'll do that.
See, Chapman's Cheapies is more than just wandering through a reject shop listening to Liberty X's just a little. You have a system. You have worked out Maya's website. Like, I've looked at Maya's website quite a bit, because if you type in Star Wars, they do drastically reduce stuff.
Yeah.
Maya will keep something at $8,000, and in 7 years' time, it'll be cleared out for $2,000.
Yeah, so they had a bunch. They had the Werribee Maya had a bunch of figures, and I'm going, well, I never go to Werribee, but we do go. We got family holiday house in Torquay, so I remember we came back one time, and I just said to Kat, I reckon we can just... you Google it and you go, Werribee Maya is only 10 minutes off the freeway.
Who knew Werribee had a Maya?
Yeah, it's actually quite nice.
The international listeners, like Werribee, and all due respect to any listeners from Werribee, it's in the western suburbs. It's known for smelling like a sewerage.
Yeah, because it is a sewerage.
Yeah, and it does have an open range zoo. I didn't know it had a Maya.
Yeah, and then you go through, and then there's like vegetable fields. The last holdout families that haven't sold their land to developers are just there amongst all these like housing developments and stuff. Yeah. So we went down there, and then a whole bunch of stuff scanned at $15. So, and I think Doncaster or one of the other ones did it as well. There was a couple that did it. So I sort of told people about it. And then the Rey and the Luke speeders, they were clearing out for sort of $50, and I think the Rey ones got down to $30. So it's just, if you have patience and you're not in really a hurry for stuff, you can kind of just work your way through. So I had recorded another Chapman's Cheapies, but it was the complete opposite to the last one, where I basically went through all these shops and got nothing. This time I went through all the shops and found a stack of stuff, but I had everything.
Yeah, I found the reject shop restocked pretty healthily, in a healthy way, after Christmas, where Josh was on Twitter, and I think you found the solo wave. And I remember I love the hunt, and I found Han, and I couldn't find Lando, and you had offered to keep an eye out for a Lando, and I wasn't having that. It was like, no, I'm walking into the reject shop. I'm going past their weird international versions of lollies that aren't the Australian versions, but a little bit cheaper. And I'm going to the toy section to find it, and it's so good when you find it. Like, I went to Croydon Reject Shop, which I'd never been to. Shout out to all the lost souls of Croydon that were hanging around the shops at that point in time. Yeah, they had a pretty healthy selection. But yeah, the reject shop is like a real discount sort of store. I'm always conscious of international listeners going, what are they talking about?
They've kind of ended up there, because it's funny, because like the bad motivated boys, sort of Eric Struthers and those guys, like they do the, America's got like the Walmarts and the Targets, so they're all about the, going to Walmart and Target, and they clear everything out. And Target, occasionally they've cleared some figures at $5, but then they've got like Maz Kanata Black Series for $34 that's just sitting there. So the Maya one, they had a Chewy. For whatever reason, this one Chewy has been sitting at like $37 and just will not budge. And I've gone back, like I've gone in once or twice and gone, hey, can you just scan this Chewy for me? And they're like, oh, that's $38. I'm going, oh, I don't need that Chewy that badly.
Yeah, I'm finding the whole toy thing weird, because Toys R Us opened up in Australia in 1993, and it was so expensive. They never clearanced anything out, they hung on to stuff, but they just got stuff in, and I just liked knowing it was there. Like, I have set mall runs where I go to a shopping centre, and it's sad because it's getting eradicated by the modern age. Check out the newsagents. Check out the Toys R Us. Maybe hit a Kmart or Target to see what toys they have in stock and that. And now I walk into Knox City, which is my local shopping centre. I'm like, there's nowhere really to go now for toys, because I used to say if a shopping centre didn't have Toys R Us, I didn't respect it. I didn't mind if it was a little one, because they can't house your big Toys R Us, but if you were one of the big boys, I couldn't tolerate you not having a Toys R Us.
It just slipped so quickly, didn't it? As soon as they went down, like they were kind of slowly doing the discounts, and I would kind of go in, and then they were kind of doing the hard discounts on the sort of the less exciting, the Star Wars stuff. They just would not budge on it. It was like 25% off, 30% off, and then the last kind of week or two, they were like, all right, 50, 60, and they just started slashing that Star Wars stuff. I remember going, I think it was Doncaster, I went in there, and there was a couple of things, and and we actually went on holiday to Cairns a few days later, and we were up in Cairns, and I was like, oh, Cairns got a Toys R Us. This is all right. And I think Sunday was the last day, and we got there on like a Tuesday, and I was like, oh, I'll go down on the Wednesday and have a look what they've got. And all their Star Wars was 70% off, but we were on holiday, so I couldn't really take much. Actually, I think that's where I got the Ray Speeder from.
I'm actually jealous. Like, I'm looking at your collection, and it's clearly a new collection.
Yes.
So you haven't been tortured by years of collecting, flipping the collection, regretting flipping the collection, rebuying the collection at an inflated price.
It's really quite recent. And it only started because I got the shelving up. So we're in my study, and we bought this house about a year ago, and I'd lived overseas for about 10 years. So I'd been really conscious not to collect stuff, because I always knew one day I'd probably come back and I didn't want to have to ship it and all that, and so I had a few odds and sods and things that need to go up, and I got a few. I had the Spider-Man that's on the wall, and the Phantoms, a couple of rare comics and stuff that are up there, and a few other bits and pieces and things. And then this was always sort of earmarked to be the study, this room. And then I went, all right, we'll put the shelving up. And I remember just going into a reject shop, and they had a Black Series. I think it was Director Krennic for like $10. I'm like,
yep.
Geez, that's all right. I'll just get that. I'll get it. And then it just sort of, oh, there's a couple more. I'll just get those.
They got you.
But the discipline, I guess, has been to... Yeah, exactly. I know, but you've been doing the long, hard road, haven't you?
Well, it's funny because I think a lot of Australians, and probably international listeners as well, we go through phases of, as kids, you reach a certain age where you sort of, if you've got older siblings or maybe your parents, you sort of get told by this certain age, usually around grade 6, year 7 or 8, toys are out. You're going to be into music. You're going to be into love interests. Sport maybe, if that's your thing. Like you're going to start focusing on other things, and it's not. It's sort of embarrassing to be buying toys.
Yeah, I guess I never bought my own toys. So I think that was sort of like when I was, because we're the same age, and then Star Wars was where it was at up until probably 8 or 9 when there was still lots of stuff, and then it eventually sort of slowly faded out. But then like stuff like Voltron and then Ninja Turtles, and like we always had, and I had a younger brother who was 4 years younger, so a lot of that stuff came through him too.
That's the key to your longevity, is you were the older one who could live vicariously if you chose to through a younger one. I'm the baby.
Yeah, right.
So, and my siblings are like, the next eldest is 14 years older than me.
Oh, right, wow.
So they were like, yeah, we were selling newspapers on the street at 6 years old in the snow. It's like, it doesn't snow in Melbourne. What are you talking about? Like you need to be doing this. But I was lucky that wrestling sort of wasn't popular by the early 90s. Like, it was off TV. So if you only got VHS rentals, but couple of mates I bonded with over a mutual love of wrestling, of like, we're not letting wrestling go.
Yep.
We're going to keep following it. And one of my good mates, he and his brothers hung on to all their toys. Their parents were like, no, you tub them and keep them, stuff like that. And he'd pull them out and we'd start reminiscing. Reminiscing was probably only 3 years earlier. We're reminiscing over it. And I remember how heavily they were into Star Wars. And for me, Star Wars was something I liked, but it wasn't a constant for me.
Yep.
So me and you, since we're the same age, we would have been about 4 or 5 when Return of the Jedi came out.
I saw Return of the Jedi at the cinema.
Yep.
At Wonthaggi Cinema. That was the first one I saw in the cinema.
Yeah.
And I don't remember whether I'd seen the other 2 before, but I must have known enough to... It was Return of the Jedi. Like, I wanted to go. I was like, get me to Return of the Jedi. So I have an older cousin, Glenn, who got us all into Star Wars. So I think I just fed the hype off him as well. And, all the toys and everything was there. And then it was just like, once that was out, I was like, well, what video do you want to get? You want to get Return of the Jedi? And then the other... But I feel like I was older before I was constantly watching them until I managed to tape them off TV, I think. And then even then, there was probably a lull where I didn't really... Until the special editions came out.
Ads in or ads out?
Ads out. I got quite...
Good with the pause button.
Yeah, we had one with a cord on it.
Yep.
Which is a bit low rent, but
you're talking to a West Heidelberg boy. Everything was low rent.
It was almost like it was like a physical switch.
Yep.
So it had to flick up or down. So it was amazingly precise. That was the thing. Like, and the thing was that you learn. They used to have it, at least back in the day, when you'd have an ad break, there would be a little dip of about 3 or 4 seconds of black before they would go back to. So you'd be like, bang! I know that's when it's happening. And so I got quite good at cutting the ads out.
I have I've probably seen the Star Wars movies more than any other movies. Like, I can watch a Star Wars movie just in the background.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. But the Blues Brothers is the other movie I've probably watched more than any other movie.
Yep.
And it's weird watching it now on Netflix or on DVD because
the swearing's in it.
And I wait for the jumps.
Yeah.
From when I taped it, because I was so used, my muscle memory of there should be AO showing up down the bottom and like the jumps of where things are.
There's Blues Brothers was a massive movie for me too, actually, and I had it taped off the TV. My dad is a musician, so Blues Brothers was always like he would play in bands and they'd do Blues Brothers covers. So we always had the music and the soundtracks and everything. And it's just crazy that I knew it so well and then I didn't, because if you watch it's really weird because on the Blu-ray now there's like the extended cut of it.
Is that with the Cheese Whiz factory?
I don't,
because Mitch and I were watching it once on a Blu-ray. I don't know what version it was, but I was watching it and Elwood is working in the Cheese Whiz factory and I'm like, what is this? Like, I sort of sat up on the edge of my seat. Like, I don't know
if it's an original cut or if it's an extended cut, but it's also the swearing. They cut the swearing a lot out of the TV one. And then quite recently when Aretha Franklin died, they replayed the Blues Brothers on SBS. And I was like, I'll just put it on for a sec. And then, of course, I just sat and watched the whole thing. And I was just amazed how many, like, little, there's little bits of swearing that I never occurred to me in there. So there's a bit where they pull up and he's like, what are we doing? He's like, well, you go see the penguin. And Jake just sort of crosses his arms like this in the car. But he actually, on the thing, he goes, no effing way. There's all these like, little bits in it. There's a bit where they pull into they get to the Palace Hotel ballroom and Murph is like, oh, classic. This place is going to swing tonight. And Mr. Fabulous is like, it's an effing barn. We'll never fill it. And I always remember them going, "This is going to swing tonight." And Mr. Fabulous goes, "We'll never fill it." Like the cut was always like that.
I'm with you. Like I don't remember heavy swearing.
No.
Like, in fact, the strongest language is probably when Jake and I were getting hit by a penguin.
Yeah. It's too hard to cut those out. So where are you at in your Star Wars? So Star Wars wasn't your number one?
No.
Where does it sit now? Because obviously you got a lot of... anyone listening to Geek Dudes knows you guys cover... You obviously cover a lot of Star Wars, but you cover a lot of stuff. I'm
tortured by... I have many loves. Like, I love... Like, I didn't have the easiest life growing up, and I think the things I liked really hold a special place to me. So I cling to them. So things like Masters of the Universe, wrestling, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, Voltron. Believe it when I say. I think they will just
they've just
based
on
losing the licensing.
Thor Ragnarok. That's the mood, I reckon.
We've now got Thor Ragnarok, so
but you could use, because I think that's just the right balance between.
But I agree with you in if like Transformers and G.I. Joe and which wasn't that bad, but those reboots have shown you that I think trying to be too gritty or too serious or trying to reinvent the wheel too much won't work.
Well, that's the thing. Like, 5-6 years ago, they would have made it like 300 or they would have done that. Everyone's in the dirt fighting in the mud, Game of Thrones style. You do Ragnarok. You can do like Stinkor, and you can look like Stinkor, and no one will care. They'll just like, yep, that's Stinkor. Or there's like, oh God, Ram Man, or
his name.
My best mate was mad on Master of the Universe. So when I first met him, my dad was in a band for his mum was a theatre thing, so she was putting on a production, and one of her had a mutual friend, one of my dad's best mate, and she was looking for a band. She's like, "Oh, I know these guys." So they got them to be the band in the thing. And at one of the rehearsals, whatever, I went along, and he just moved to town and stuff like that. And he was like sitting at this sort of table, and he was just surrounded by Masters of the Universe. He just had all of them. Like, oh my God. And then went around to his house, and he had this little shed, and he just had Snake Mountain, Castle Grayskull, blah, blah, blah. I remember going, this is the luckiest boy in the world. Yeah, and it didn't occur to me until years later that his parents had just separated, and that was like the
thing. Well, for me, Star Wars...
sold them all for about $50, I think.
Don't tell me. I physically moved then. But for me, Star Wars represented being able to go back to things I love, because Star Wars was a line in the sand for me. I distinctively remember to talk about Toys R Us, walking into Toys R Us on a Saturday morning as Dad went off and did his shopping, and I did my loop of the stores, and I walked into Toys R Us, and the first series of Powers of the Force was there. Now, obviously, it's horrible now when we look at how. I saw
a guy on Facebook Marketplace 2 or 3 days ago who was selling 20 figures in packet for $100.
You can't give them away.
Like, well, the thing I'm like going,
maybe the long-sabered versions are worth something, but
because they're hilarious, is it worth it? I'm like, what am I going to do with them, or where am I going to put them? No,
don't do it, because I jumped on because they were cheap Shadows of the Empire figures last year. Yeah. And I was like, I want to get them because it's like so niche of that 90s. It reminds me of the 64, like everything. And then I got them, and it was like, I don't really have room to display these things. Like, I got them.
I wouldn't put them on my shelf, because I kind of like even the 3 3/4 inch ones. I'm like, these are kind of just weirdly hanging there. I don't really like my best mate's son had his birthday it was probably the end of last year, and I just said, dude, come into the thing and pick any 3 3/4 you want off the thing, just go for it, because I'll just get other ones. And I came back about 10 minutes later, he had 4 on the ground. He's just looking at him like he just couldn't. I think he had like Yoda, Obi-Wan, Luke, and I think it was like Rey or another ones. He just couldn't decide. I'm like, just take all 4, dude. It's okay. That's okay. Don't torture yourself.
Well,
mate.
Star Wars to me was my nerd badge of honor. So like Power of the Force came out. I think we got video re-releases around that time. And for me, it was... I'm really back into Star Wars. I watched them again. I was like, I really love these movies. And then it was, I'm watching them every weekend. I'm buying the toys, working at Price Down, which was a horrible variety shop. I was folding towels. And like the bit of money I get, I'd go down and I'd buy these toys. And it was a representation to me of nerddom's okay. And I don't care that... Look, physically, no girl was going to come near me anyway. So, like, it was the Star Wars thing. It's not going to matter. I'm gonna I'm going to be into this. My friends are into this. Their older brothers are into this. I remember I had a Darth Vader T-shirt. It's so horrible. I couldn't comprehend wearing it now. Where it was like the Empire wants you, and it's Darth Vader pointing like Uncle Sam, and I became like Star Wars became my thing.
You're like a Star Wars guy,
and then the mania of the special editions and leading into the prequels and stuff. It was a golden time in fandom, and that's why I love the documentary The Fandom Menace. I don't know if you've seen it. It's an Aussie documentary.
I think I have.
I think it's available on YouTube. Steele's covered it, I think, on Steel Wars.
Yeah.
But
it's the guys who were at the Force Awakens premiere, the fan club.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm a member of Star Walking. I love what they're about, but they intimidate me a little bit with how militant they are.
That's why I've always never really jived. Like, I've never really got involved in those groups, or like I'm not a dresser upper, so like 501st or all that kind of stuff. You know, I've never really it was all that weird thing, because I was kind of feel like, I remember Steele saying, oh, you kind of found this group because you didn't have any Star Wars friends, and you kind of sat at the back. And I'm kind of like, you know, if we'd gone to university together, or, you know, it'd be a similar thing where it's like, I don't think I'd go to a group, but if I sat next to someone who said they like Star Wars, you know, but I kind of found people, and that's why the sort of group of friends I have now they've come through Steele's podcast, and now the sort of online community, and like you guys, and it's just the right level of, you know, everyone's pretty chill, and I'm curious to see how it goes at Celebration, actually, to see whether it's that.
I'm jealous of you getting to go to Celebration, except for one thing: lines.
Yeah,
I love, like, I was lucky enough that I got to live my dream of going to a WrestleMania, so Undertaker's Streakend live in person. My family gave me the pass to go and see a WrestleMania, so I got to go to America. They do like a convention with all the old 80s wrestlers, shilling your photos with them for $10 each, and like, it was a lot of fun. But like, if I was going to go to America again on a pass, it would be to go to Celebration.
Yep.
But I know I'm not overly social. I just wish I was. Like, Steele can go to you can just tell he's such a sociable guy. He'll meet anybody and start chatting to them.
Yep.
So I could imagine him going to a Star Walking event and sitting in a room and going, oh, they're like me. They like Star Wars. I'm comfortable in this room.
Yeah.
Where for me, I'd walk in there and be so self-conscious and going, I don't like talking to people, and what is this?
I guess the difference is that, like, I still feel like I need to relate to the person. I can't just have Star Wars. Like, it has to be more to that as well. And I think the sort of the little gang that we've kind of got with the people we know here, and even though I haven't met a lot of the, you know, the online friends, it's been like internet dating, you can kind of gauge. Like, there might be awkward moments or things, and I think that you've got to temper expectations. And I'm actually pretty socially, you know, I've put myself in social situations. I moved overseas and didn't know anybody, and, you know, made a whole bunch of new friends. I'm kind of like, I can kind of walk into a social situation, I think I'll be okay, especially if you've got a little bit of a leg to stand on. But yeah, I don't think that's just enough. I think that, and that's the thing, like, you're talking about the lines, I'm going, well, I'll go along to things I can go along with. If there's something that's like a 3-hour line, I'll be like, I'll just go.
Oh, so I was going to ask, what's your breaking point? Like, because you hear there's overnight. You know, like,
I don't. A couple of the guys, Andy and Catherine, have kind of been going, overnight, and I'm going, I don't know. I don't know.
Danny Glover, I'm too old for this.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that. I guess I'll just have to see. Cause if it was like, if we go there and there's a bunch of people and everyone's just like, we're going to do this, there's going to be a whole bunch of us, and I would be tempted to go like, all right, well, I'll stick it out and see how I go. If it's a social thing, we're having fun. If everyone's just kind of sitting in the dark on a concrete floor and in quiet, I'll kind of be like, I might as well just go home, and I might just get up at 7, try my luck at the door when I come back, or, you know what I mean? Like, I just try that. But
you're a big drinker, Josh?
No.
Like, is this going to be a party for you? Like,
it will be. I guess what big drinker is, but I'm definitely a social drinker. Very, very rarely get drunk anymore.
Like, are you at the Rainbow and somehow you're showing your belly button to Ron Jeremy in the middle of the night type?
No, but I mean, when I lived in England, you know, it would be, you know, England's drinking, going out, and I would, you know, do that and be out till 3, and I did that pretty much until I left England and stuff. And we did that. We were out before we had children, and as soon as that sort of, you know, goes off. But I would certainly be going, I'll be up for, I would probably be more up to go out for drinks with friends there rather than sit in a line overnight. Yeah. To catch something that's going to be live streamed anyway. Like, I know that, I mean, the only thing is the episode 9 panel. I think everything else will be pretty manageable. Because
that's a moment. Like,
that's a moment.
Yeah. You won't be able to, like, I don't know. Obviously, everybody's finances are different, but this is the last movie of this trilogy, and that moment. Like, I'll never say never again after The Phantom Menace, after the prequels, and then we had it all again with The Force Awakens. But I think Star Wars is forever now. Like,
There'll be an
we're all
episode
confident it's
10
not
trailer.
going away. Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're right.
So I'm not too fussed going, this is the last. I remember walking out of Revenge of the Sith in England, and I saw it at midnight there, and I'd only just moved there, and I had friends, but no one who's going to game to come at midnight. So I remember walking out feeling like kind of, oh, that's it, that's the end of that. Like, that's a shame. I'm not going to walk. I'll walk out of episode 9 and go, wow, that was a resolution to that story. But I'm like, well, something else is going to, it's not the end of it. It's not going to be that melancholy.
But that's where I'm, like, you're asking me where I am with Star Wars. I'm fascinated by the online community, The Last Jedi, The Division. Everything about it fascinates me because I think I've got so many different interests.
Yep.
Where a lot of people in this community, Star Wars is it. It's their jam. And I, for my podcast's sake, love being over the top and carrying on like a pork chop every chance I get. But at the end of the day, I'm actually pretty easy to please. Like, it's like Cassian Andor, I don't really care either way, but great. There's more Star Wars TV shows coming. Like Resistance is there. Great. Like I'm an Australian. When's the torrent up? The Pirate Bay is hard to navigate with these proxies and stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll get to it when I get to it. But if it was easy access, I'd watch it all the time. One of my favourite things to do is with my kids is to watch the Star Wars show every Thursday and Australian time and stuff. I'm pretty easy, but I'm watching these people and they're doing Game of Thrones like battles with each other. Like it felt like two distinct groups. And for me, like I'm always going to see a Star Wars movie and be bamboozled by the music, the visuals and everything and walk out of there going, I just saw the greatest movie I've ever seen. Right?
Yep.
That's me. Right? Episode 9, I will come out and declare it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I've gone back and with episode 8, I don't think it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I don't hate it. Like, I'm not disillusioned with it. I'm more... I don't know how I feel about it till I see the final movie.
Yep.
And what does concern me as a geek, as a fan, as an over-opinionated nerd, whatever you want to call me, is... And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Is... And I'm a storyteller, so I work in professional wrestling. I write storylines.
Yep.
It's the lowest form of entertainment. Don't worry, I'm not in a disillusion about. I'm not denying what it is.
Podcasting was the lowest form of entertainment.
Yeah. Or no, professional wrestling can attest that. Like I'm in 2 of the lowest forms of entertainment there is, and proud of it. But I'm alarmed at each person writing their own movie. From a Star Wars standpoint, because I like the idea that they went into episode 7 going, we're going to get to here at the end.
Yep.
And I don't know that they didn't do that, but it doesn't sound like they've done that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oof.
Well, they had, when they kind of announced it, it wasn't even J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan who were writing it. There was the dude who wrote Toy Story. And I watched the documentary quite recently, like the making of. Like, I'll pop that on. I quite like making of. I was watching the Fury Road making of last night because I fell down the rabbit hole. So watching Fury
Overrated movie.
And they were basically going, oh yeah, we hired this guy and he wrote, but then it turns out he likes to take 3 years to write scripts or something. And I'm like, well, probably could have found that out.
Is that
before.
Matthew Arndt?
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
So then they basically just gone, oh, okay, so we got JJ said he'd write it, and they got Larry Kasdan. It's like, great, plenty of pedigree there. But I think that also contributed, like, we've just got to get this freaking movie done. We've got to get it, and it's got to make sense, and we've got to work out.
And they made dramatic changes to it. You watch Force Awakens, you can tell middle of the Takadona, major changes happen. You can feel it.
But I think that the emphasis and where they spent a lot of the time, and especially the lead up, was finding out what happened leading up and going, we just can't worry about what happens after. We can worry about what happens after later, either that me or probably Ryan Johnson. I think Ryan Johnson had been lined up around the same time anyway. At least you can go, well, there's a guy here who can worry about that. We've just got to suss out and get this movie to work, but also we have to worry about not everything, but we have to know to a point where where's the Republic at, where are the Jedi at, where the things at. We've got to suss all this other stuff out first get this thing to work. So we've got the sort of all the front weight that we have to get out the bag too. Because I don't know, because they've said they got the story group and things, but I think that they're more about making sure all the pieces fit rather than writing the story.
And all the pieces are marketable.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I feel they tie in. Let me know if I'm dragging your podcast out too long, Josh.
Dude.
I don't know. It sounds to me, and I don't know anything. I'm no Jason Ward in the slightest, but it sounds like to me they went, here's your Han movie, here's your Luke movie, here's your Leia movie. Go create and try and tie it in, right? From a marketing standpoint. And all hell broke loose when they lost their Leia movie.
Yep.
And I don't know what they're going to do with episode 9. I'm sure they'll tie it into it. Like, they're smarter than I am. They'll tie it into a nice bow and it will be what it will be. But I just wish I didn't know that they were just going to write the movies as is and it wasn't a trilogy written. Because you've got to think, when we were kids, we had no idea how anything was made. We just accepted it. You know, when I watched the horrible Masters of the Universe movie, which I did know as a kid was horrible, I remember that was my first disillusion in the cinema.
Saw it on VHS at a birthday party.
But I didn't know that Canon cut the budget and they didn't even have money to film the final fight scene, and they turned off the lights and just had swords clashing and lights flashing because that's all they could afford to do, and that's why the ending scene isn't that great.
Yep.
I didn't know that. I just accepted that was the end of the movie.
And most of it was on Earth.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, the Eternia stuff at the very start, the very end is cool, and then you spend the rest of the time in downtown LA.
Yeah, where now I feel... And it's the same with, funny enough, with professional wrestling, where I more follow the industry than the product. And it sort of feels with Star Wars, a lot of the fans are following the industry of Star Wars as opposed to really following the product of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of switch off and I'm just going to enjoy the ride, baby. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of obsessing about it. And I suppose if people nitpick... And also the distribution of information, there's so much stuff as well. So it's like, you know, books and comics and TV shows and video games and movies and things. It's like, well, there's so much stuff. I can't concentrate all of it. I have to concentrate on the mothership. So if I can concentrate on the mothership, then I can basically just pick and choose at the things that I want to engage with. But also it means if I've got a beef, I can basically just go straight to the mothership and have my beef with them. So, I mean, the Last Jedi stuff's interesting because I feel like it's a very concentrated group of antis who are butting heads with
it's all
a concentrated group of ones who want to butt back, basically.
The disappointing thing with it is I love a good nerd fight over a nerd story. It's the agenda behind their attacks that bums me out. It's like the same with Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Right? I will sit there and go, horrible movie, right? I did not enjoy that movie. But... I'll somehow know. I'm cautious to say it.
He goes to a metal concert in the middle of the day.
I just
the lights on.
I just don't want to get swept into the girls were the problem because they weren't. You know, it was just not a great movie.
Yeah,
you know, like if you could have put Ernie Hudson,
you could have put all the original Ghostbusters in
it wasn't a great movie. Like it just wasn't. And I feel with The Last Jedi, there were just racist and sexist overtones in the attacks on the movie.
Yep.
And I don't blame the other side for going, these people are horrible people, right? And now they're trying to hide behind, no, we just didn't like a movie. And it's like, no, you know, Kelly Marie Tran didn't leave Instagram for shits and giggles. You know, it became a horrible thing that no fandom should be about. And that's what sucks because I think these should just be dumb movies. This is why I love Solo. Like, if you ask me my favourite of the new movies, it's Solo. And it was just fun. It wasn't perfect. I love that it wasn't perfect. It didn't really challenge me.
Yep.
And that's okay. Like, I go by the thing of, if mum and dad say to me, here's your $10 note and you can hire 10 weeklies for the school holidays, right? Will Solo be one of the 10 weeklies I hire? Yes. Yeah. It did its job.
Yeah, it feels like one of those ones you could just replay and rewatch. And
yeah, it's just a fun movie that furthered fandom of Star Wars, like I'm one of those people that goes, Darth Maul in a movie, yes. Like I look at it because I'm so dumb, and I'm happy to say I'm dumb.
I did,
it's like,
I remember it
Darth
happened. I
Maul's
just kind
there.
of went, all right. Well, I'll go with that. Like I don't.
Like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
like if Prince Shizor had have done a backflip on the screen, I would have gone, look at that. You know, I'm easy to please. I understand where people, it's their big passion and they want to be challenged by it and they want it to grow and evolve. And I understand that because I think I feel that way about wrestling, but I sort of work in it too, which is why I feel differently about it. But, you know, people feel the same way about bands. Like, I don't think it's Star Wars exclusive.
Well, I was just going to bring up sort of a metaphor of sort of disappointment and stuff, and I thought this would relate sort of specific to you, which is we're both Essendon Football Club fans. And I was a huge Essendon Football Club fan. I was a member. I would go every week. I went to the grand finals, did all that stuff. And then while I was overseas, the club basically got involved in a doping scandal.
Oh, you were overseas for that?
I was overseas for it. And there was all this thing where they were dropping the thing, and I'm getting texts from my mates going, oh, you got it. So basically, the short story is that the club's great, arguably golden boy player came back to coach the club. They brought in a high-performance doctor who basically ran his own sort of operation outside the club, couldn't keep track of what he'd given the players. Asada got involved, and the club was basically disgraced. They were kicked out of the finals. The coach, James Hird, was sort of let go, brought back. It was all a horrible mess, and there were lawyers and things. And it was quite, the club has always had a very proud history, and it was embarrassing to be a fan, and and it's only really taken a few years to come back. And to be honest, I've never come back the same fan. I'm slowly bringing myself back into it.
I won't turn this into an Essendon podcast, but I feel exactly the same. Yeah. And I don't know. I still buy a membership every year.
I haven't bought a membership,
but I haven't been to a game. Since the scandal. And it's hard for me to get away to games with kids and stuff like that.
Same.
But even watching it and stuff, I think you get certain heartbreaks. And to me, I sort of decided football doesn't matter. And it hurt because James Hird, the person that was involved, was a hero of mine as I grew up. And it was embarrassing. I get defensive of it at times as well, but that's that's for just a supporter. I get the same with Star Wars. I'll defend it. But yeah, it's that I don't even know where we're going with that. I mean, I'm stuck on the Essendon thing and I'm feeling bummed.
Metaphor of, I was basically just using it as like something that you really love let you down. And if people who sort of feel like that Star Wars let them down, you can basically, in sort of both of our cases, we took a step back and, I guess it's different because in this case of Star Wars, like you get another movie and everything can be cool. In the case of something like this, it takes more time. The club has to sort of reheal. The people have to be moved on. And all
the sport of
professional
wrestling, I know people hate wrestling analogies, and Steele Saunders and I can't stop using them. Still, my excuse is I work in it.
He snuck some in when he was on as well, so that's perfectly fine.
But for me, I always say my first heartbreak in wrestling, and wrestling's a horrible example because they're deaths. And a wrestler by the name of Owen Hart was performing a stunt where he got lowered from the top of a building and the cabling broke and he died. And he was a major part of wrestling in my childhood and growing up. And that sort of innocence got lost. Like, it's to me, when I think of my true fandom as a unashamed just wrestling fan that wasn't involved in the industry and everything like that, you always go to, what do you like? And I noticed my tastes dramatically dip off at the end, like from that point. There's a correlation there of me not loving wrestling the same. From that point, like obviously I love it. I'm so involved with it, but my fandom was different. And it's like, I think it's like the Essendon
and that's how
thing,
I feel with Essendon. I'm slowly coming around. Like the captain of the club, Dyson Heppel, is from my hometown, from Leongatha. So it's like local boy. People know him. My parents know his parents and stuff. So you kind of get back, but it's definitely not the same. And
but it's like the person that brought you into Star Wars. I know
my
my Star Wars.
Glenn.
Glenn. He didn't click with The Last Jedi.
No.
I saw a old high school buddy, and we grew up with Star Wars and stuff. His first thing he said to me was, "Last Jedi, no good, was it?" And he was expecting me to go, "Oh yeah, I hated it." And I said to him, "I go, oh, it was all right." Like, he was like, "Really?" He goes, "What about Luke?" Like, and he wasn't once again, it wasn't the sexist, misogynistic side of it.
Yeah.
He just didn't like how they told the story.
Yeah,
It wasn't
that's exactly what Glyn was.
Yeah.
He was the same, and I saw him at Christmas, and he was a bit like, "Yeah, I haven't gone back," you know, because I had him on the podcast in sort of like April or something. I'm like, "Oh, dude, you'll go," you know, because he's going, "Oh, I don't even know if I want it on my shelf," you know, I've got them all. And I'm like,
Come on, Glenn, get it on the shelf.
I don't know if he'd seen Solo or not. I have to double check. I don't think he had, but you know, it also said, well, what episode 9? He's like, oh yeah, no, I'll be there for episode 9. I'm there. Like, don't worry.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think he looks at anything going in either. He goes in as cold as possible as well. So,
but people forget, and I'm a prequel apologist. Always have been, right? I didn't realise the Phantom Menace dragged a little until the 3D version. I was sitting in the cinema going, I don't remember this movie annoying me, but I'm sort of annoyed by it.
They put an extra lap in the pod race as well.
But do you know how long that took for me to get to the point of the Phantom Menace is finally bothering me 10 years later? But like, I was just like, I like Star Wars. I'm into it enough to accept what they're giving me, and I can disconnect from what I didn't like. And that's just personal choice. I don't expect another fan to do it. It's like some people go, I don't know why people like Boba Fett. And it's like, oh, he's got cool armor. It's shiny.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he did nothing, you know.
I've got a really good metaphor for you, actually. About Boba Fett. Is the Boba Fett movie the Chinese democracy of Star Wars?
Or is Obi-Wan?
Or is Obi-Wan?
Yeah, I think Obi-Wan might be. Because, Boba Fett's a bit different because I think some of it's going to get blended into The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
I think
wouldn't be surprised if
assets and ideas and stuff might
kind of having your cake and eating it too a little bit.
Yeah, and if you believe the story, I don't know, I can't tell the difference between rumor and reality, but, you know, that Favreau pitched a Boba Fett show and they said, no, we're going to do this with a Boba Fett movie, and
we want to keep him on the big screen.
But I think the Obi-Wan, like, Ewan McGregor's almost Axl Rose at this point.
But I don't think it's his say, is it? Like, I feel like he's always, I mean, every time they sort of pull him up, he's got a beard, they always ask, he's like, oh, I don't know about it, I'm just waiting, you know, I'll be happy to do it if they ask.
But when you hear that, you go, please just give him the movie, he's right here. Like,
so I feel like they're waiting for something, but I don't know. I mean, I've said before in here, I think TV series would be better, slow burn, 6-part.
Well, look at Game of Thrones. Like, I don't know if you're into Game of Thrones, but we've been able to enjoy a product over a 6 or 7 year period. Could you imagine that with a Star Wars product? We get a few years worth of stuff, you know, but we don't know what Star Wars TV is going to be till we see it. Like, that is like The Mandalorian. I'm really excited for it, but
it'll just be weird watching.
It's TV. Like,
that's the thing. It's like, will it feel, you know, because they're throwing a bunch of money at it, so it's going to look great. But I'm kind of just, I don't know whether they'll go, hey, we'll show the first episode in a cinema, or...
They had me at Carl Weathers and Nolte Ugnaught.
We made the joke that the Mandalorian panel at a celebration will be the one to go to because it'll just be bonkers with Nick Nolte and Carl Weathers.
Sliding doors, imagine if Trank didn't screw up, the Boba Fett movie would have got announced. They wouldn't have been able to back out. They would have made it.
Yeah, well, they probably wouldn't have made Solo. They probably would have pushed Solo back. And it's that,
And that's what I am bummed about is, I think, and Glyn, if he hasn't seen Solo, is the example that people just weren't ready, just from a processing standpoint, for a Star Wars movie so soon. And it really was, and I feel like, I've described it, I feel like Essendon just lost a game by 100 points. And that's how I felt about Solo, is... I saw something I liked, but it felt like a sporting team that got thrashed. It didn't put score on the board.
Yeah.
There's no denying it performed horribly. The audience rejected seeing it at the cinema for whatever reason. I can defend it all I want. I defend Thomas Jane's Punisher as well. That doesn't mean that people are going to say that was okay.
I prefer Punisher Warzone personally, but that's me.
But you know, at the bottom line is it didn't perform.
Yeah.
And rightfully they're going to shy away. But it's disappointing because I think a lot of the people that want the extra goodies of that Star Wars can bring.
Do you think
that
if it had
little
come
stuff.
out at Christmas, it would have done the same thing though? Because they would have moved. If it had come out,
Aquaman.
but they would have moved Aquaman. They wouldn't have put it against it. They would have at least moved it a
This
week
is
or
Warner Brothers and DC. We're talking like that. I don't know that that's
they would
smart.
because I mean they were kind of going, Mary Poppins, we've got to clear the decks.
Because Poppins wasn't big, was it?
No, it kind of. I mean, it did all right, but it didn't friggin' blow the doors off because I think they're all going steer clear of Poppins. She's going to rule, and everyone went, Aquaman.
I think Aquaman was always going to it clearly connected with China. Right, which Star Wars is never going to do. I don't care what they name the movie. What was it? Solo. Ranger Solo. Call it what you want. The Chinese are going, you're not going to fool us with your Star Wars stuff. We know this is Star Wars. Yeah. I think it would have done better. Like, just say it was 500 million, right, which is double. Because I think it only did, 270 or 280. I could be wrong on my numbers.
On US or
worldwide, I think.
Was it?
Yeah. If only we had magical devices.
I know.
That could
I've got to look up the
internet.
You keep vamping.
But I think if it had have done around $500 million, we're in with a shot. But what kills me is I didn't hear a lot of people going, Alden did a bad job as Han Solo. And think of the miracle of that. Right?
No. Well, that was all the talk going up because everybody assumed it would be a hit. So, no one was going, it's not going to make the money it will, probably make less. So we've got to nitpick about the guy playing Han Solo doing the impossible job. But
I think he delivered a great job. Chewie was great in it. We could have had a movie where Darth Maul is running a criminal syndicate and there's multiple bounty hunters and Han Solo.
392 worldwide.
Okay, 392. So it didn't crack the $500 million.
213 domestic.
Yeah, that's low. It's like
50 budget
when you're talking, and they reshot and did all of that. Yeah. But the people that didn't like Last Jedi and stuff, they're absolutely the people that go, we love the expanded universe and stuff. And it's like, all those little nuggets that they would throw in perhaps a Mos Eisley movie or anything, that's what it would have led to. I did a
solo commentary with my brother-in-law James, who's got 150 expanded universe books in his parents' bedroom. And he came on after we watched. I had him on just after we saw it at the cinema, but he came and we did the commentary. And he's like, "That line's from this book. That's from that. That's what this means." He's like, "Oh, that's a nod to this book." And da-da-da. And he's like, "Oh, Lando's drops a thing. That's this race." And he's just gone. It's just chock-a-blockers with expanded universe goodies,
And that's the thing. People need to chill because Star Wars are going to cater to everyone, and you don't have to like everything. You just don't.
No.
Rebels hit and miss. Resistance, I can take it or leave it. I like knowing it's there. I hate, hate's a strong word. I don't want to say that. That's just me hyperbole. I'm not into the Lego stuff, as in the Lego cartoons, the Freemaker Adventures and stuff. That's not for me. But I don't care that it exists.
But is there a medium of anything where you just go this is all gold? Is there anything? Even this... unless it's something that's really small, people go, I'm crazy, Firefly. I loved Firefly. It's there was one series in a movie.
Yeah.
There's 12 things that you have to love.
They didn't get a chance to blow it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're going you're either going to have heaps of stuff where you can pick and choose the things you like, or Deadwood. Or, there's 20 episodes of Deadwood, or you go, all right, well, great. It's not enough time to blow it. So I think... the particulars of that kind of stuff is just you're spoilt for choice, and because you're so spoilt for choice.
No, do you know what the problem is, Josh? We're spoilt for voice. Is the problem?
Hashtag spoiled for voice.
We are.
All right, hang on. I think that's the episode title. Spoiled for voice.
But we are we hear too many opinions. We're exposed to too many opinions.
Yes. And
we have too much access to put opinions out there sometimes without enough thought. And including me, who says dumb stuff on a podcast every second week. I think a lot of my fandom, we romanticize our fandom because it might have been us in a group of 3 to 5 people, kids growing up or mates.
Yeah.
And we all were friends because we had similar tastes.
Yeah, you're hanging around with the people who agree with you and like the same stuff because you like it. And that's
so you're
why
in a
hang
bubble.
Around with them.
It's I didn't walk out of the Phantom Menace going, that was horrible. I walked out with my mates going, how cool was Qui-Gon Jinn?
Yeah.
Although if you were hoping to see him at Celebration, dude.
I know, I just saw that.
When I saw him Twitter, I was like, oh no, not Liam, he's gone. And then I looked at it, was like, oh no, worse, he said something racist.
Yeah, we had Andy here the other day, and we were doing a hypothetical of like, if you got a celebration, you get an autograph for somebody, and he was like, Liam Neeson. I'm like, dude, don't think Liam Neeson's going to be turning up to celebration now.
He's going to have to lie low, and it's hard for him. He's really tall.
He's going to have to do a little bit of backtracking. But spoiled for voice. That's exactly right, because you just had, like, I remember walking out of Phantom Menace and being like, yeah. My abiding memory of that, I think I've mentioned on the podcast, is when they follow Jar Jar into the forest and he jumps into the water and they climb, they go into the water, and I just remember thinking, going, what the fuck is going on in this movie? Like, what is this? Like, at the start feels quite Star Warsy, but not like it's really weird because the prequels are very different. They're very familiar yet different. Like, the sequel trilogy feel way more familiar, but the tone of the prequels is definitely different. I don't know whether it's...
And I think, like, I like the prequels more now, and get ready to hate me, Star Wars fans, because I felt the Clone Wars thickened the story. Right, yep. And I understand how people can feel that about EU books. Like, the EU expanded what Star Wars was to them and perhaps shaped their fandom. Mm-hmm. I felt I can handle a lot of the stuff in the prequels because it's like Matt Lanter's Anakin in the Clone Wars was pretty good.
Yeah,
like, I like Hayden Christensen. I don't have an issue with him. Like, we all agree on Attack of the Clones. We're all together there. Of like, if we've got a Star Wars movie to watch, that one's just at the back of the pile.
Do you remember, like, when that was...
I don't hate it.
When that was shooting in Australia, like, when they were talking about casting Anakin, I know, like, everybody was talking about Leo, but I think Matthew Newton was very high up in the talking. I dodged a bullet on there because he turned out to be a real piece of work.
Yeah.
But I remember his name being thrown around quite a lot, and also the kid from Neighbours who actually went on, Jesse Spencer. He was like
same birthday as me.
Oh,
February
really?
12th, 1979.
Well, I got a mate
He's
at
good
uni
looking and talented, though.
I got a mate at uni who auditioned for that role on Neighbours. He got second to Jesse Spencer.
Wow!
I can't remember. Was it Billy on Neighbours? I can't remember. No.
Yeah, I think it was.
Was it? God, I can't remember.
I haven't watched Neighbours in a really long time.
No, I haven't either. There
Once Nicola Charles was out, I'm done. But
Hayden had to work with what he worked with, but I haven't watched the prequels in ages. Like, one, I don't have any time. Like, normally and it just, the thing is, if you've got no time when you've got children, if you're going to carve out that nugget, you're either going to watch something you haven't watched, or you're going to go to your big guns. Like, we're talking about, like, the Blues Brothers. I can't remember, like, it happened to be on TV, and if I had time, I'd be like, I'll just pop the Blues Brothers in, so you've also got to find the time to do it. You've got, like, a little bit of a setup in your cave, though, don't you? You've got, like, a...
Kind of, but I'm very conscious of what my kids see and hear.
Yep.
And because I was a big baby growing up, I had nightmares, like the dogs in the Ghostbusters, like, I had nightmares about them nonstop. But I look at it now, and it's like, what? But
I could never, I still, the Librarian... When I was a kid, I knew it was coming, and I would look the other way. I wouldn't even look. And even now, I'm like, I don't really like that.
My son Hunter's the opposite. He loves scary stuff like The House with the Clock in the Walls, which is a Jack Black movie that came out last year. I was watching it with the kids, and I was like, I think I'm about to tap out on this because I think Hunter might start getting freaked. He's watched it 6 times. That and The Greatest Showman I've seen more than anything else.
I heard you talking about The Greatest Showman, which I haven't seen, but
your kids will dictate what you watch. Like, if I'm going to watch a prequel movie, I'll watch Revenge of the Sith. Yep. Love me, Jimmy Smits. Give me more Smits in content coming out.
Yeah.
I just think if you're getting the best of Obi-Wan, you're getting the best of prequel Anakin, you're getting the best of prequel almost everyone.
Yeah, except Padme. She's sort of a bit wasted in it.
Yeah, a little, but I'm also a sucker for Grievous.
Yeah.
Because it's so stupid. This coughing mandroid that does nothing is so Star Wars.
Yeah. And
it's if I'm going to watch that, I watch it. But yeah, I really found the Clone Wars enhanced. And not every episode of the Clone Wars was good. It took me. That was actually. You want to talk about a movie none of us talk about? Clone Wars movie. Thumbs down. I'll watch Attack of the Clones 10 times over before I'm popping that bad boy in.
The Baby Jabba the Hutt. And
Stinky. And I saw it at the cinemas and I was like,
it's amazing how much people love Ahsoka Tano after that. Like, I don't think any character has had a fan redemption because people hated her. And, rightfully or wrongfully so, but she was an annoying character to start with. From where she sort of started in the fandom, and people were just like, "Where's the Ahsoka movie?" Like, I don't think anybody says a bad thing about her now, but I didn't see that at the cinema, but I definitely watched it on DVD, and it was like, ooh, yeah, the Truman Capote hut and the
Yeah.
oh my God, Jabba.
Yeah, that's probably my worst Star Wars experience at the cinemas, because I can't remember seeing I think I watched Ewok movies at home.
I saw Caravan of Courage at the cinema.
Oh, okay.
Battle for Endor. I remember Battle for Endor was like a legend. I remember some kids going, "No, there's another one," and they all die at the start. I'm like, "No, come on, man, this doesn't exist." And then the video store, and they had that like. The artwork's quite awesome on it. It's got like he's got the gun on the front, and it's got the. It's just like, whoa, what is this? And then you go, ooh, yeah, it's. I haven't gone back. I've got them on. I got it on DVD. I lent it to some friends a while back and never got it back. I've got it somewhere on DVD.
But yeah, I implore to the Star Wars fans listening to this to just chill and focus on what you like, because. They're going to hit something. They're going to put out so much stuff. You'll probably like something, and if you don't, go back and watch those other ones that you like.
They probably already put a movie out.
They haven't gone anywhere. Yeah,
they probably put out a movie that you like.
Yeah,
or Solo. So just watch it. You probably like it.
And that's the thing. Like I would find there's a older lady at work. I love her, and she's always attacking me about Star Wars. And she goes, "I watched Solo, and I like that one." And I go, "People didn't go see that." And she looked at me and goes, "Star Wars fans are the worst. Why didn't they go?" Like, she couldn't comprehend. I said to her, I go, "Yeah, like, people just, you have to be this or that, and there's no in between." And I'm dancing in the in between, baby.
Yeah, my concern with Celebration, and we'll wind up in a second. You know, we've all got lives and things.
Yeah,
is
I don't. But Josh does.
Well, it's very quiet, so I'm just like, quiet is good. Is, you know, will there be active trolling at Celebration? No. Will there be make Star Wars great hats? Will there be booing? Will, you know? I'm really hoping that they.
I don't reckon there would be. And what type of idiot would spend that much money on a ticket and a trip to make anyone uncomfortable? Like, I'd like to think that if you're going there, deep down you do love Star Wars. You just enjoy being a heel on Twitter.
Yep.
And it's like, or Facebook or whatever it is that you do. And it's like, congratulations, you've got this little persona that you think you're internet famous with. Good for you.
Yep.
But I think in reality, you don't have the cojones to be like that in person.
Yeah,
like it would take a special breed of douchebag to bring that in person.
There might be somebody out the front, but it's too much to just get chucked down and get your pass ripped up. Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, it only takes one person in an Ewok costume to dob you in and be like.
But who wants to go to something called Celebration and not celebrate?
Oh, mate, that's the way to end it.
Can't beat that.
Podcasts, Geek Dudes. Hey, it's the podcast. Yep. I had a couple of Hey, it's Saturday questions, but we'll come back on
another time.
Another time. Thanks for coming, making the effort, and coming over. Everyone knows your stuff. Anybody who listens to this probably knows your stuff anyway.
I don't know about that. We're like the bastard sons of this community. We're the naughty boys. At Geek Dudes. You can follow me at Twitter at CRISS Fresh. I listen to this podcast more.
Please.
I really enjoy it. Don't listen to our nonsense. You're probably better off. But if you're Australian and you grew up in Australia in the 80s and 90s and you want any sort of nostalgia, I'm sure there was a point you sat down in front of a TV and watched Hey, It's Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a crazy ride recapping those episodes. Trust me. Like, give an episode a listen. You'll be surprised. Like, you might go, that sounds like a ridiculous idea, much like a Peppa Pig pod. But it's a lot more fun than you would imagine. And if you want to hear three idiots sit around talking about anything and everything that you shouldn't in a public forum, Geek Dudes is for you.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, mate.
Thanks, Josh. It's been fun.
And we'll see you soon.